Alright, Shalom. I want to start out by giving our praises to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone, and peace and salutation to the elect of Israel. Today is Thursday, November 24th, 2016, so-called Thanksgiving. So, just wanted to do this video real quick to bring out a little bit on the Native American Indians, which we know to be the tribe of Gad, and to just go into the hypocrisy of this so-called holiday. So I want to bring out a little bit from this website, then I'm going to jump into a couple scriptures as we get through the site. And this is entitled American Indian Genocide, and it's from rationalwiki.org. And let me just jump right into it. American Indian Genocide or American Indian Holocaust are terms used by specialists in American Indian history as well as American Indian activists to bring attention to what they contend is the deliberate mass destruction of American Indian populations following the Europeans' arrival in the Americas, a subject which they allege has hitherto received very limited mention in history, which it has. They don't really bring it up as much as they should. They kind of gloss over it. Partially because some of the deaths happened before European chroniclers arrived to record them. Many acts which American Indian activists view as genocide are sometimes brushed aside as wartime deaths by non-Indians. Estimates of the pre-Columbian population vary widely through controversial studies. Place the figure of North, Central, and South America at a combined 50 million to 100 million, with scholarly estimates of 2 million to 18 million for North America alone. An estimated 80 to 90% of this population perished after the arrival of Europeans, overwhelmingly from factors which deniers of genocides argue are beyond most human control, e.g. smallpox epidemics. Europeans, especially the Spanish conquistadors, also killed thousands deliberately. So what you had was close to 100 million Native Americans that were murdered, that were killed. Even if it was from disease, they brought the diseases and spread it to them. So that's staggering numbers, an estimated 80 to 90% of their population. That's mind-blowing to even think of the numbers, 80 to 90% of a population. Alright, we're going to jump. Acts of genocide. The UN famously distinguishes between genocide and acts of genocide, while never answering the question how many acts of genocide make up a genocide. Perhaps the reader shall decide. Among the individual acts of genocide perpetrated by the American settlers during the colonization of the Americas are, now, the slick devil Esau, instead of saying that it was genocide, they say, well, it was an act of genocide, which is very slick talking. Alright, the first, we go into Columbus's voyages. Christopher Columbus came to the New World for queen, honor, and God. His ships brought many priests to accomplish God's work. Both his own writings and those of Bartolome de las Casas mention the thousands of murders done in the name of God against the people who chose not to convert upon discovering the New World. Now, you see, he said he came under that cloak of I'm coming in the name of God. Well, that's going to jump us into the first scripture. Pull up the blue letter real quick. That was their little lie. We're coming in the name of God, which we know not to be true. They came in the name of conquering, in the name of destruction, in the name of Satan. That's the name they came under. Now this is Revelation 13 and 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And that's going into Columbus. He came under that cloak of in the name of God and peace and conversion, but he spake as a dragon. He brought nothing but destruction. He came under false pretense screaming peace, but he was ready to stab him in the back at the first chance. He came with utter destruction. Now let's get back into this website. And this is one of the writings from Columbus. Coaxed Queen Isabella to support his exploits in the Americas so that the Queen might eminently contribute to diffuse the light and the truth of the gospel upon the Indians. On November 6, 1492, Columbus addressed the King and Queen as recorded in his log. Our intrepid captain opened, I am convinced that if devout religious persons knew their language, they might be converted to Christ, and so hope in our Lord that your highness will decide upon his course with much diligence. His purpose, Columbus proclaimed, was to Christianize the Indians. So once again, they come with that false pretense of religion. We coming to Christianize you. We coming in peace, but they really were coming to just steal, kill, and destroy. And that's going to jump us to we're going to go into one more scripture. We're going to go to the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, and his words were softer than oil, yet were there drawn swords. So just like we said in that letter to the Queen, he had smooth words, nice, talking about Christianizing this, and that. But he has a sword drawn in his hand, ready to kill everybody he came across. He wrote in his memoirs he wasn't able to put his sword down for 1 hour the whole time he was there. So all he did was had a drawn sword the whole time while he spoke all these smooth words. And it's just more evidence on this white man being the devil, and people still running around celebrating so-called Thanksgiving. You're really celebrating the murder of all of our brothers, which was the tribe of Gad. Now we're going to jump down into some of these other atrocities. We're going to go into the Trail of Tears a little bit. American Indians had a complex relationship with the United States, and one viewed they were occupying land that Americans wanted for themselves, and another view a number of tribes had been raiding and robbing settlements and each other and were a threat to the U.S., and a third view the natives were the physical embodiment of man in touch with nature, living an idealistic lifestyle of fishing and hunting and hygiene, which they were. God kept the laws, statutes, and commandments. They kept the land Sabbaths. They knew how to be in tune with the earth, and were a threat as a number of indentured servants kept going native. And yet another view the Native Americans were welcoming to the illegal immigrants or pilgrims, and were relatively eager to have trade relations for things like iron, tools, dyes, various animals, religion, intermarriage, etc. And you see that cross that out, illegal immigrants, because that's exactly what the Europeans were, illegal immigrants on their land. And Esau has the nerve to talk about building walls and keeping out illegal immigrants. They were the first illegal immigrants. By the 19th century, the various native tribes of Georgia, Alabama, Florida were mostly integrated with the U.S. They intermarried with white people, spoke English, and had a plantation economy, including slavery. At the same time, they were states within a state, having quasi-independence and their own government. The Indian removal of 1830 attempted to move roughly 50,000 Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and others from their home to Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma. The U.S. government did not provide any means of transportation, forcing them to walk the 2,200 miles. One can reasonably argue that the U.S. government did fully expect many of them to die on the way, which they did, especially children and the elderly. The U.S. government recorded 4,000 deaths on just one of many relocation marches among the Cherokee alone. Estimates of the death toll ranged low as 5,000 to as high as 25,000. Ironically, missionaries traveled with the Indians of their own accord to attempt to provide better provisions to the people. A few managed to stay behind, living in remote areas of wilderness among among relatives in the various towns. The Sand Creek Massacre. On November 29, 1864, 700 militia from Colorado and the surrounding territory surrounded a peaceful encampment of so-called peace chiefs, predominantly from the Cheyenne and Arapaho, who had been invited to end the Indian wars. Without warning or cause, they opened fire and slaughtered approximately 150 Native Americans from various western tribes. Colonel Shivington and his men cut fetuses out of the women, slaughtered infants by stepping on their heads with their boots, cut the genitalia off men and women, and decorated their horses and wagons with scalps, genitalia, and other body parts before parading through Denver. Now you see that? They came upon peaceful Indians and slaughtered them, desecrated their corpses. This is just more evidence of this wicked motherfucker, the so-called white man. And it's going to jump to the next scripture. We're going to go to the book of Revelation. Genesis, chapter 49. And let me see. 19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Now that's what we were just reading. Let me pull it back up. The Trail of Tears, the Wounded Knee Massacre, the Sand Creek Massacre. That's a troop overcoming Gad. It was prophesied thousands of years ago in the scriptures that this would happen. That's the great troop that overcame Gad. The Wounded Knee Massacre. As the U.S. government were herding Sioux onto reservations, a Paiute shaman among the name Wavaka came up with the syncretic ghost dance religion, mixing numerous indigenous beliefs and Christianity. Wavaka taught that the dance, along with loving each other, living in peace, working hard, and refraining from stealing, fighting amongst each other or with the whites, and traditional self-mutilation practices would hasten the reunion of the living and deceased. This reunion would coincide with the sweeping away of the evil in the world and renewing the earth with love, faith, and prosperity. Many Sioux, though, interpreted this sweeping away of evil and renewing the earth as meaning of cleansing the white Americans from their lands. This interpretation spread rapidly among the Sioux, causing alarm with the U.S. authorities, who sought to quell the movement by arresting chiefs, most notoriously Sitting Bull, who was shot to death in the process of his arrest. Sitting Bull's death caused a number of his tribesmen to flee the reservation. Later, when journeying to another reservation, they were intercepted by a regiment of cavalry, which attempted to disarm them. One deaf mute man did not understand the order, so he failed to put down his rifle. It went off as a soldier took it from him, resulting in their comrades opening fire, believing they were under attack. 150 Sioux were killed in all. The massacre was committed by the 7th U.S. Cavalry, a unit formerly under command of General George A. Custer. So revenge for his spectacular lethal defeat in battle with the Sioux and their allies may have contributed to it. That's exactly what it was. You got here the Nada Hutton massacre. It's plenty of massacres that go on, man. You can go to this site and you can look into it, but the point really has been made. He killed with words smooth as butter, but war was in his heart. So before you good old Negroes sit down and eat your turkey and chitlins, just think about what you're celebrating. Think about the atrocities that were done to our brothers Gad. And just ask yourself, is this a day that's supposed to be celebrated? Because Esau takes it and flips it, put out Pocahontas movies and put it as some peaceful thing between the Pilgrims and Indians, where there was nothing like that. They came faking peace, but they slaughtered them. You can't even go find the Indian. I charge you today, go out and try to find a couple of Indians. You can't find them, because Esau wiped them out. But as I said, it was just a video in the spirit today, pointing out the atrocities of the so-called white man. With that, I'm going to say shalom.